There's a larger study also going on in Great Britain, Newcastle University, looking at organic fruits and vegetables, finding they have up to 40% more antioxidants than non-organic, and the milk containing up to 80% more antioxidants in the summer, 50 to 60% higher in the winter, and higher levels of vitamin E. And this research has not been published yet. I've read stories, reports, but it's still underway for another year before it would be published. But this has been published here, Journal of American Chemical Society, looking at tomatoes, organic, a 10-year study, University of California, Davis, looking at the levels of flavonoids in organic and conventional tomatoes. The 10-year levels of these two flavonoids, quercetin and camphorol, 79 and 97% higher in the organic tomatoes than conventional. That's over a 10-year, the mean average, mean level over that time. But what's really interesting is that the levels of those flavonoids increased over time with the organic system, whereas the conventional system, they just held flat. You're just giving a very simple nutrient formula to those tomatoes, basically fertilizers. You're not building the complex ecosystem in the soil, and that's reflected in the quality of the products. I mean, you can taste it, you know, something from your garden versus a tomato from the grocery store. I mean, that flavor is telling you to eat it. It's good for you. And here we have science that backs it up too now. Here's a Journal of Agriculture and Food Chemistry, also, but looking at ketchup now. So it's processed tomatoes, but looking at antioxidant lycopene in organic versus some national brands, finding the organic brands had 57% higher levels of that antioxidant, and that followed through with other brands that they looked at too. This is a study that came out a year and a half ago now from Ohio State University looking at antibiotic-resistant bacteria. So Campylobacter was a particular bacteria they were looking at, examining the gut contents of chickens, broilers, and turkeys, and then looking at the Campylobacter community in the guts and seeing what the percentage was resistant to antibiotics. And they looked at different antibiotics. But this one here, in particular, the fluoroquinolones, found that the conventional chickens, 46% of the samples were resistant. 67% of the samples from the conventional turkeys were resistant to that antibiotic, whereas only 2% from the organic chickens and turkeys had antibiotic-resistant bacteria in their guts. And it just makes sense that if you're feeding low levels of antibiotics in confinement systems, which is common practice, medicated feeds in confinement, whether it's hogs, cattle, or poultry, they're fed low levels of antibiotics. Well, some of those bacteria are going to survive, and they're going to replicate. They're going to, and so this huge issue of antibiotic resistance is linked to most of the antibiotics that are used in this country are fed to livestock for subtherapeutic uses to keep animals alive in confinement systems. And what it's doing is leading to the explosion of antibiotic-resistant bacteria. And so here's just some documentation. There's also studies of dairy cattle in Wisconsin and Minnesota, similar kind of results. Okay, I think this is the last study I'm going to talk about. University of Washington, and this came out a couple years ago, but now they've just reissued it, and I'll show the citation on the next slide. where they took a group of urban and suburban kids. These were not farm worker kids, suburban kids, and fed them just a regular conventional diet, measured the organophosphate insecticide metabolite levels in their urine, switched them over to a conventional diet, measured those metabolites in their urine, and then switched them back to a conventional diet. So what they found was that in the conventional diet, all of the 23 children had the insecticide metabolites in their urine. When they switched over to the organic in phase 2, those levels dropped to non-detectable in all 23 children after 5 days of eating organic food. Once the children were put back on the conventional diet, those levels went right back up. And what the researchers concluded, consuming food grown using organic methods can virtually eliminate exposure to a dangerous class of insecticides that are known to disrupt neurological development in infants and children. And that has just been republished or published in Environmental Health Perspectives just not even a month ago. So there's a few websites. Certainly my favorite is the University of Minnesota. I had to put in a plug for that. And we have a really good link service on that website, so you can go to any of these others. That again is the USDA Organic Program. The USDA Economic Research Service has some really interesting studies on how many acres of organic, numbers of organic animals, the whole organic market at this website. This one is ATTRA. It stands for the Appropriate Technology Transfer to Rural Areas, but they're a government-funded research service. They have an 800 number, but they have an excellent website. But any question you might have about organic, you can call them up, and they'll research it for you. There's a publication on the back table, a guide to ATTRA organic publications, but they have all sorts of helpful stuff on their website. The one right below that, New Farm, is a Rodale, and the whole phrase organic farming came from J.I. Rodale, Organic Gardening Magazine. They're out of Pennsylvania, but they have a really good website, New Farm. They keep it fresh, lots of stories there. I'm not going to go through all the others. I will point out this one here, Organic Center. A lot of the research that I mentioned, they have published or they summarize on their site. So if you're interested in nutritional differences, that's an excellent place to go. And I can't close without mentioning Moses, the Midwest Organic and Sustainable Education Service, based out of Spring Valley, Wisconsin. But they put on the Upper Midwest Organic Farming Conference, which is next Thursday, Friday, and Saturday in La Crosse. It's the biggest organic farming conference in the country. Had over 2,500 people there last year in a snowstorm. We'll see how it goes this year. Takes over the La Crosse Convention Center, but it's just a tremendous resource to have this close to home. And they're a huge trade show, so all kinds of seed dealers, equipment dealers, buyers, certifiers, booksellers, everything you can imagine there. But over 60 educational workshops, good music, good dancing, and excellent organic food for the whole weekend. And I only have one copy, but there is a brochure about the conference on the back table. So that's it. Any questions you might have? You've been a quiet group, so I'd love to hear any questions or comments.